Vladimir Putin is facing a nightmare scenario. NATO just greenlit a brand new strategy. There has been a shift. What Trump has done the other day is actually carrying forward in NATO policy. You'll see what I'm talking about in just a moment. Okay, let's start here. Newly appointed NATO Supreme Allied Commander in Europe, General Grinkwich, spoke of great urgency to mobilize defense industrial bases in Europe and the United States, calling this a defining moment in NATO history. Grinkwich was tasked by Trump to arm Ukraine fast. That's different. That's not what we've been hearing in the last 6 months. U.S. European Command and NATO allied forces commander in Europe, Grinkwich, said this, quote, "My directive is clear: to ensure that the Ukrainians receive everything that they need to defend themselves, full stop." Let's talk about that. That's not been the way that the Trump administration has handled this so far. Trump pivoted about a week ago, and it's very clear that something has changed. Quote, "Obviously, this includes offensive weapons as well. So many more steps will be taken. We will act as quickly as possible," unquote. He also went on and said this, "I'm not going to reveal to the Russians or anyone else how much weaponry we'll be delivering to Ukraine or when we'll do it. But I can tell you that preparations are already underway." In the past, what we like to do is say, we're going to deliver X. And then we're in progress of delivering X. And delivering X is almost here. And we've just about delivered X. And we've delivered X. That doesn't seem like the order of the day moving forward. Another quote about air defense: "We plan to move as fast as possible in this regard." And I'll show you that they are moving fast in a little bit here. As part of our strategic security planning, the defense industry has been provided with a specific list of desired weapons. That's true. They're working their way through that. And, quote, "It's our job to hold the defense industry accountable for rapid delivery, to hold ourselves accountable by enabling them to, in an accelerated procurement process. We need real capabilities and we need them fast. We can no longer afford to wait. Future promises are no longer enough. These weapons must begin appearing as soon as possible in the armies, air forces, and navies of the alliance." So it looks like something has meaningfully shifted here. Now, we saw that financial press report that Trump was saying, hey, can you hit Moscow? And maybe that was taken out of context or something, but here's a little bit more about that and about what was really being said according to the Washington Post. Trump told Zelensky that Ukraine needs to go on the offensive, according to a Ukrainian official speaking to the Washington Post. The U.S. president reportedly said the war won't change if Ukraine stays on the defensive. Zelensky replied, "If we have the right weapons, we can." Okay, so that's where this thing, "can you hit Moscow," came from. So let's look at just this red box. In his July 4th call with Zelensky, Trump said that Ukraine would not change the course of the war by playing defense and needed to go on the offensive. And Ukrainian official said when Trump asked if Ukraine could bomb Moscow or St. Petersburg, the official said, Zelensky replied, "If we have the right weapons, we can." Now, the Financial Times reported that the elements of that call, and so that's where it looked like Trump was encouraging them to do that. And then asked about the call a week earlier, Trump said, no, he shouldn't target Moscow. Okay. And then the White House press secretary, Carolyn Levitt, confirmed that Trump had asked a question about Ukraine's ability to hit Russian territory, but said the question had been taken out of context. Trump was seeking information, not advocating that Zelensky do it. Okay. But there's still that discussion about like being on the offensive. That is the key to all that. Okay. Ukraine is to get Patriot missiles very shortly, according to Mertz. The chancellor confirms Germany's air defense transfer will happen within weeks as NATO works out the logistics. So not the batteries, and we're not talking about batteries like the misunderstanding from the Russian propagandist. If you haven't seen that video, go back one video and you'll see what I'm talking about. Trump thinks that they're running on batteries. That's not what he was talking about. It's not the batteries. It's actually talking about the missiles themselves are on the way. The missile launchers are going to take longer to get there. Okay, now there was another NATO general saying this: NATO can seize Russian Kaliningrad faster than ever. This enclave between Lithuania and Germany and, between Lithuania and Poland. Yeah. Listen to this. NATO could capture Russia's Kaliningrad region in a time frame that is unheard of, the commander of U.S. ground forces in Europe and Africa said this week, amid fears of future Russian aggression. Speaking Wednesday to the Association of the U.S. Army's inaugural Land Euro conference in Germany, Lieutenant General Christopher Donahue said NATO's land forces could have developed the ability to strike and seize strategic Russian positions faster than ever before. We can take that down from the ground in a time frame that is unheard of. So I know the Russians are going to go nuts over this, because anytime that they can threaten to nuke Europe or the United States and nobody bats an eye. But if NATO says something, well, they're the aggressors. Okay, overnight, what happened? Russia launched 35 strike drones, including 29 Shaheds, mainly targeting eastern frontline areas. Listen to this, mainly targeting eastern frontline areas, not Kyiv. And because they're targeting places where there's minimal defense, 18 drones hit 5 locations. And so I hope the Russians aren't learning a bad lesson here to target places that are not Kyiv or Kharkiv and have greater success. Now, that 35 number makes me terrified, because Russia's saving up for a rainy day. I'll talk about that again in just a moment. Today, for the second time in a day, Russians attacked a locomotive on the railway, which was transporting civilian cargo. Zaporizhia region, a 64-year-old man died after air-dropped bombs hit a residential building. Kharkiv region, 4 people were injured. Pavlograd district, 52-year-old train engineer was killed. So on July 18th, today is July 18th, Russian drones targeted the Dnipropetrovsk, Zaporizhia, and Kharkiv regions. And so they're targeting these second, I don't want to say it like that, second tier cities, I guess, like not the prime cities that they have been targeting before. And they're having greater effect there. One thing that's happening that's very new is that they're starting to use napalm in Shahed drones. Attacks are getting even more brutal. Occupiers are upgrading already deadly drones, now equipping them with warheads filled with a napalm-like incendiary liquid. Recently, we found liquid in Shahed warheads that resemble napalm. It spreads and burns even on sand. It's one thing when a high explosive hits a factory. It's another when a 5-story apartment building is drenched in burning liquid and the whole block ignites. We know better than to expect Russians to follow the rules of war. Yep. Okay, Russia is now likely preparing a massive Shahed drone attack. Over 500 reportedly stockpiled. So if you just take the low ebb of numbers over the last few days, it's very clear that something big is going to happen. It's going to be 500, 700, maybe even higher than that. Military analyst Alexander Kolevko warns that a large-scale strike on Ukraine using Shahed drones could happen soon. According to his estimates, Russia stockpiled more than 500. That's pretty easy to see. Kyiv has gone 7 days without strikes, a lull previously linked to the visit of U.S. advisor Keith Kellogg, but he left 2 days ago and the silence continues. So it's going to happen, and it's going to happen sometime soon, and it's going to be big. Ukraine developed $1,000 to $500,000 interceptor drones, achieving a 70% kill rate against Russia's $35,000 Shaheds. But can innovation scale faster than industrial T? Yeah, so this is good. This is really good that they have developed these, but they have to crank them out now as quickly as humanly possible. Russian strategy is to overwhelm air defenses with cheap drone swarms, since Western interceptor missiles cost $430,000 each and can't be produced fast enough. Russia aims for 1.4 million drones annually. Like, think about that, 10 times 2023's production, 1.4 million drones, so that they can just do this every night at scale. Alabuga factory targets 6,000 Shaheds by summer with the Iranian blueprints. So the question is, can decentralized creativity outpace centralized industrial T? And I think that Ukraine will be able to do it, but they have to move very, very quickly. Previous cycles saw Ukraine innovate and Russia adapt and scale. So, yep, that's where the fight is. The Ukrainian-made kamikaze drone Belova, a counterpart to Russia's Lancet, is now in service with Ukrainian forces, and it has an operational range of 35 to 55 kilometers. That pushes the front line back when you can have that kind of range. In fact, that's the only thing that's really holding the Pakrovsk in place right now. Okay, we'll talk about that in just a moment as well. Drone attacks targeted Moscow region overnight and in the morning. This is just some, this is what it looks like and sounds like. Yeah. Okay, it's in Moscow. We got hit. Drone attacks in the strike Moscow and Doritsnisk. I don't Zisk. Explosions rocked Dorishnisk and Nizhny Novgorod region and several areas near Moscow overnight. Eyewitnesses reported low-flying drones and active air defense fire. In Dorishnisk, the strike targeted an industrial zone, possibly linked to ammunition production. Up to 12 explosions were heard. Nizhny Novgorod emergency plans were temporarily activated due to the threat. Flight restrictions have now been lifted. Same for Moscow's airport, which canceled all-night flights. So they're getting hit as well simultaneously. Let's look at the battlefield. 1,180 Russians off the battlefield, 3 tanks, 9 armored fighting vehicles, 47 artillery systems, 111 vehicles and fuel tanks. And even with those numbers, what we're seeing are the losses that Andrew Perpetua could identify, and it was 4-to-1 for Ukrainian losses for every 1 Russian loss. This is probably the worst numbers that I've seen throughout the war. And it's only 1 day, but again, the last couple of days have been 1-to-1 or 1.2-to-1 or something like that. It's been not great. Okay, the Pakrovsk direction, Donetsk region, Russian invaders led 48 assaults. That's about right for the number of casualties that we're seeing. Now, there's also a preparation underway right now to really attack Pakrovsk in a meaningful way. A few important nuances on the figures cited by CNN, specifically the claim that Russia may be days or weeks away from surging into a heightened summer offensive with 160,000 troops. Important context, these are not newly arrived forces. No, they've been gaining around and amassing around Pakrovsk, and that's probably going to be the real focal point. That and maybe a bit of 50,000 around Sumy. I think that's where it's going to be. I saw this and I thought, well, we probably ought to talk about it. Russian forces have seized Ukrainian territory the size of Luxembourg in 7 months. According to Bild, since the start of the 2025, the Russians have occupied 2,395 kilometers of Ukrainian land. For comparison, the entire area of Luxembourg is 2,586. Okay, so yeah, almost about that size. In all of 2024, Russia captured 3,388 kilometers, meaning this year's pace of advance has increased. But if you look at where they're advancing, it's these areas around, these pockets around the cities where they're going out into the farmlands and working around it. So it's not like they've taken this of major cities like a Bakhmut or something along those lines. It's not like that. It's lesser populated or less dense area. The analogy that I would give you is like if you're in sales, if you spend more time getting more calls, that's not the important thing. The important thing is how many sales have you actually made while you were, so instead of 100 sales calls, you did 175 sales calls. Well, that's great, except if you didn't get more sales, like that's really what counts here. It's not a perfect analogy. They are taking more land, but they're also losing like 100,000 killed since the beginning of the year, and 200 some odd thousand killed and casualties over the course of that same time. So I'm not sure that this is anything to worry about, but it's not great, but I'm not sure I would be worried yet. I'd be worried if there's like massive overrunning and they get to the second line of defenses and then there's massive overrunning again, which I don't see happening. Okay. Russia has reportedly struck a military recruitment center. This is again, they keep doing this. I've this like a half dozen to a dozen within the last few weeks. There's no official confirmation yet. Local media report at least 2 people killed in the attack. Okay, now the Russians are doing stupid stuff to themselves. Like they're killing their own soldiers on the battlefield. I need to do a whole video just about that. And Ukrainian soldiers are defending on the battlefield with technology, and that's really the key to their success so far. The use of drones, decoys, and long-range strikes. Ukraine is reshaping how wars are fought. Just a little bit from this article. And Kate Livingstone, we're not special, just reliable. Frontline soldiers in Ukraine are holding the line against endless Russian assaults and rewriting modern warfare. So she visited the 1st Assault Regiment in Pokrovsk. And she found this. It's massive, constant, endless attacks. And that pressure, it's just exhausting. Pokrovsk, there's no rotation, no relief, just soldiers digging deeper each day to survive. That's bad. You really got to get them rotated eventually, but it doesn't look like they're going to get a rotation, and a big assault is coming. Our only chance to win is to become a technological country. I think that's right. They get it. They understand. And if they can, with technology, leverage that to hold off the Russians, they have a shot. From hacked FPVs to fiber optic drones, Ukraine's future on this front is built in workshops, not headquarters. They understand that, and they're entrepreneurial at heart. They're deeply entrepreneurial, and this is helping them survive. Bullet wounds have become rare. Now most injuries are blast trauma. So the chief medics team treats 2,000 troops under relentless fire. Her biggest surprise is the desire of some people to live. That's going to carry them a long, long way. All right, just some other things that I want to cover here. A column of Russian BMPs destroyed in the bottleneck while attempting to cross a small canal. This is by the 54th Brigade of Ukraine. Zelensky appointed former defense minister to the post of Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council. So Umerov wasn't put out to pasture. He was supposed to become the American ambassador. The Americans rejected that. They put a different ambassador in place, but Umerov is now going to be the Secretary of the National Defense Council. Some bad things are happening. Kyiv lawyer was sentenced for sending sensitive military information to Moscow. That's not cool, but it happens periodically, and weeding that out is important. Russian FPV drone exploded inside the SUV of Kherson's chief rabbi while his family was inside. Now, they survived. It's part of Russia's human safari, daily attacks on civilians. On 17 July, medics were hit. On 18 July, a man on a bike was killed. Like, this kind of thing just keeps happening. The head of the chief rabbi, yeah. New investigation identified Russia's Dr. Evil of Ukrainian POWs. He tortured and humiliated Russian soldiers in penal colony number 10 in Russia's Mordovia, saying that they deserved genocide. That's the way Russians think about Ukrainians. Time's latest cover, Time magazine, over the past few months, the fate of kidnapped Ukrainian children has been pushed to the edges of the peace process, intensifying fears across the country that they may never come home. So any exposure and light that's being shed on this is a positive thing. This should be thing number one before you have any kind of peace deal. Give us our children back. I mean, this is just barbaric. All right. Yesterday, I talked about this little video where I showed the size of the Gripen and the Su-34. Somebody challenged that, a viewer challenged that and said, hey, look, I don't think this looks the same. You should run a retraction. So I looked it up, and like, I'm not like, I start by saying I'm just a professor trying to provide context in the war in Ukraine. I'm not a military guy, and I'm not sure exactly what this is, but the length of the Gripen to the Su-34, it looks like maybe this image isn't correct. I don't know. Tell me if you know something about that. Put that in the comments below. I don't know what I don't know, so I'm willing to hear from you. Yeah, I mean, the Su-34 is supposed to be longer and the wingspan wider, and it doesn't seem like that could be an optical illusion. Maybe it's something else. I don't know. Okay, Last couple things. Darth Putin, on this day, 1945, having just liberated Lithuania from the Nazis, Soviet mass deportations resumed, liberating 1,000 Lithuanians from Lithuania to provide slave labor for the USSR. Within 2 years, over half were dead. Imagine mass deportations taking place today. And they are, and they're called children. Okay, just a soldier with his dog feeding him on the front lines, and that dog is earning his keep with keeping the morale up, I'm sure. Last little bit, if you are listening to this, or if you're interested in listening to this podcast, we're on Apple Podcasts, Podbean, Spotify, Apple Music or Amazon Music, that is Audible as well, iHeartRadio, Player FM. We're pretty much everywhere now. So thank you for listening. Please don't listen on YouTube in the car. Listen on a podcast. And that's all that I have. Thank you for your time. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes. Tell me what you thought about this, because I think a big change actually did just happen. Thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.